Have you guys got your Christmas shopping for the year done?
You're good.
Absolutely
No,
not. Absolutely not.
Really, even with the GST, HST, easy to understand tax break, you haven't rushed right out to get your shopping done?
you know the other thing
Well,
that the government completely screwed up on, that has totally screwed up my Christmas shopping, has been this Canada Post strike. So, number one, the whole idea of doing back to work legislation is unpopular anyway. So you eat that. You eat that unpopularity of saying get back to work. But only this government, William, could manage to pull off of go ahead and go back to work. By the way, Christmas is still screwed for everyone. Good job. Good job, everybody. So yeah, needless to say,
yeah.
this mom who has like relatives across Canada, y'all are getting your presents around, I don't know, Valentine's Day. So no.
No, it
Noah?
was the worst of both worlds. It was the worst of both worlds. It was like, oh yeah, well we're gonna put you back to work, so we're gonna piss off the unions, but we're gonna delay it so that all Canadians can, equally feel the pain. It was just like at this point, Trudeau's not even trying. It's kind of ridiculous.
There's
William, are you one of those dudes that goes out on like Christmas Eve day and you're out at the mall? I can picture you.
no, I did my shopping mostly on Black Friday, but unfortunately, with the post strike for Christmas, technically everybody's going to get those little count of posts. Sorry, we missed you. We'll let you pick up your package at a deeply inconvenient location slips. I think that's what everybody's going to get this year.
I'm actually
I think
screen grabbing things I'm buying people and I'm printing them as pictures and I'm sticking them under the tree. Whatever. They're not here. They're stuck in a truck somewhere. All right, guys. This is too much fun. Let's get this started. Welcome to Off the Record on True North. I'm Kris Sims. I'm the Alberta Director for the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, pinch hitting this week. So thank you so much for listening to me, along with my friends, William and Noah. Gentlemen, this week feels like it's been about 3 weeks long. And I think that's because a lot of people got what would be a surprise resignation from the finance minister this week. It has been quite something. So, for folks who've been asleep and didn't know, Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland was supposed to deliver her fall economic update. What that means in normal people talk is like a baby budget, like a mini budget, where you update the numbers. And that was supposed to be done like weeks ago, but it was gonna then be done on Monday. Turns out, yeah, no, sorry, no soup for them. They blew through their so-called fiscal guardrail, which, by the way, was a $40 billion deficit, which is a crazy, terrible fail, okay, from this government. But they blew through that, and it's about a $62 billion deficit. But apparently, Freeland didn't want to polish that one for Trudeau, and she resigned before that could happen. So I just wanted to go around the horn first before we get to our clips and all the fun that happened after that. What was your guys' reaction to that when you saw the wheels falling off there on Monday? My favorite part was when the speaker stood up at 4 o'clock. He's like, well, it's 4 o'clock, and technically I'm supposed to stand up and get the finance minister to talk, but there's no finance minister. That was wild.
No, I thought it was a really interesting day. I woke up on a Monday thinking, oh, well, it's going to be another day. Maybe the fall economic statement provides some news, but I did not have this one on my bingo card, and I'm pretty sure most people didn't either. I mean, it's understandable from Chrystia Freeland's perspective as someone who wants to run for the Liberal leadership after Trudeau and someone who doesn't want to have their reputation tarnished further. It's not like her reputation is, extremely clean. She's widely beloved by all Canadians. But tabling a fall economic statement in which you blow past your fiscal guardrail, it really does not help if you're trying to, appeal to Canadians and try and convince them that you are going to be able to adequately manage the country's finances if you become prime minister. So she did, and she also has a book coming out. Which is interesting. It's called Christia. So, I think, this was probably, more or less planned by her. She, came to this conclusion probably a while ago. And it also seems as if this was like a bit of an interpersonal dispute between Trudeau and Freeland. Freeland has been very loyal to Trudeau, one of Trudeau's most valiant soldiers, and she has taken a lot of blows on behalf of the prime minister. But after the prime minister said, "Yeah, I want you out of the finance ministry. I'm gonna put you in a role with where you get no staff and no additional resources. You're basically just gonna have a nameplate on a door, and that's about it." She's like, "No, I'm not gonna deal with this. I want to be prime minister in the future. I'm gone." And it looks as if a lot of liberals are, looking up to her as a folk hero of sorts. But it's definitely all the more pressure for the prime minister to resign after a disastrous year in office.
William, what did you think about Freeland's JetBlue performance?
Well, look, I think I figured out what happened, and it's that Justin Trudeau went to the new finance minister store and he ordered himself a new finance minister. But unfortunately, because of the Canada Post strike, the new finance minister didn't show up on time. Mark Carney's probably stuck in a Canada Post warehouse right now, waiting for Canada Post to deliver him. So the fact that he already fired his former finance minister without actually getting a replacement left him into a really embarrassing situation on Monday, where Chrystia Freeland, after being put upon by this prime minister oh so much over the past few months, finally said enough is enough. I'm not going to defend an economic update with measures in it that I don't believe in, and I'm certainly not going to do it knowing that you've tried to boot me or have booted me for someone else, by the way, someone else who didn't want to even join Mr. Trudeau's government. And I mean, it is hilarious. It is, you couldn't have planned a better set of circumstances, I think, for all of this to happen. To me, I felt some undertones. For those of you who are a little older, you may remember there was another finance minister who lost his job in kind of a similar way. His name was Paul Martin, and he was fired by John Chrétien because Chrétien decided he didn't want him anymore. Wasn't being loyal, didn't have his confidence, whatever the case is. Well, if you looked what happened after that, Mr. Chrétien was not long for his premiership after that. In fact, some would say it was the incident that finally brought Mr. Chrétien tumbling down. Will that happen this time? I guess we'll only have to wait and see. But certainly, everything is not happy in Liberal land right now.
No, for sure. I am old enough to remember that. I was working on Parliament Hill when that happened. And I remember distinctly Paul Martin was in a press conference and he was asked something along the lines of, "Do you have confidence in the Prime Minister?" And he hesitated a little tiny smidge too long. And then all hell broke loose. I will point out, from a taxpayer's perspective, this is a totally different Liberal government. We have got a record deficit, and Chrystia Freeland, as finance minister, helped Trudeau double the national debt. She was a huge carbon tax cheerleader. She loved hiking up the capital gains tax on people's properties and assets. She froze Canadians' bank accounts when they had the temerity to disagree with her government peacefully. So yeah, she's one of the worst finance ministers I've ever known in Canadian history. And I'm saying one of the to hedge my bets because I'm always scared there's some alternate dimension way back in the 1800s that I'm not aware of where there was a worse finance minister. But brother, she's up there. So as far as the parliamentary press gallery goes, they can save the sonnets, okay, when it comes to Freeland. All that said, William and Noah, I did enjoy the circus that happened afterwards, and it just kept rolling all week. We've got this clip, and it is a clip, it's a long one, from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and I've been told to say this, warning, it's a clip from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. So please stay with us, listen to the entire thing. But this is fascinating because this is, keep in mind, after Freeland quits, after they have no finance minister to deliver a terrible fall economic statement, after a massive caucus meeting that went on where Freeland apparently got a standing ovation and he did not. So imagine all of this going up to your annual holiday party. That's awkward. All right, play this clip.
It has been an eventful couple of days. It hasn't been easy, and that's why I'm so happy to see you guys. You know, it's hard not to feel happy when we're like this, among Liberals, among family, because that's what we really are, a big family. Now, like most families, Sometimes we have fights around the holidays. But of course, like most families, we find our way through it. You know, I love this country. I deeply love this party. I love you guys. And love is what families are all about.
Yeah. Don't drink the punch. Just saying. Don't drink the punch. I've been in the arena a long time. I've talked to that prime minister probably 36 times. He's mad. He was basically talking through gritted teeth there. What was your take on it quickly there, guys, William and Noah?
Well, I mean, I loved the whole "we are family," and I thought, yeah, the Manson family called themselves a family too.
That's what I meant, right? Like, don't drink the punch.
Definitely a cringeworthy moment. He almost seems divorced from reality. That what has happened in the real world doesn't even go through his head. That I kind of want a vacation where Mr. Trudeau's mind is at, because it seems like a happy and warm and fun place, because it's definitely not the reality the rest of us are sitting in. I think for him to go to a very high-end liberal fundraiser following his terrible day, not to talk to reporters, not to talk to Canadians about the fact that their elected government appears to be in complete disarray. But boy, he always has time for Liberal donors who paid a lot of money to the Liberal Party, makes time for them. I think really just sums up this Prime Minister: party before country and self before anyone else.
No.
Well, you hit it right on the head of the nail there, William, because instead of addressing the Canadian people after that tumultuous day, I mean, it wasn't just political chaos. It had an effect on the Canadian economy. We saw our dollar drop below 70 cents per dollar value to the American dollar. So, like, this had a implication when it came to the financial markets, and then especially the bond markets. We had people in the bond market saying, hey, like, can we really trust Canadian bonds and buy these bonds when Canada looks like it's going to have even a harder and harder time paying back their debt? This was a very serious day, and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau rather go in front of a friendly crowd of liberals, that the most diehard of diehard, and make jokes. I think it's a little disgusting. And not only did he do that, but he canceled all of his year-end interviews. The Prime Minister usually gives at least one, a few year-end interviews generally, and he decided, hey, I'm not even gonna just cancel all of them except for one. Maybe with his favorite reporter at the Global Mail or Global News or CBC or whatever. He didn't even do any He's not going to do any interviews. And it really shows, like, it really looks like he's trying to avoid political accountability. He's not trying to face the Canadian people, because he's probably just trying to. He probably feels as if he can reconstitute a plan to regain his support, but that opportunity is long gone. He's delusional if he thinks that's a possibility, and it's a shame that in a democracy like ours, the Prime Minister doesn't want to face the people.
I find it very interesting that after 9 years of puffball interviews that he's been given by the mainstream media, and largely directly from the press gallery, to zero in on them, I hold them responsible for the fact that they've given this guy carte blanche, free reign for the last 9 years. And the moment that he might get an uncomfortable question at the year-end interview, he's not showing up. So very interesting. Speaking
These are the
of
sunny ways.
Yeah, right,
These are the
exactly.
sunny ways.
So it just speaks, frankly, it just speaks to the fact that he's never had to be accountable. Like, he's never had to worry about a bill. He's never had to worry about paying rent. That's why it's so frankly disgusting when he jets down to places like Brazil to some Up With People conference and scolds all the rest of us, saying that we should value paying his carbon tax over feeding our kids and paying rent, as if he knows the first thing about either of those two things. So to me, it just speaks volumes. It's the same guy who wanted the budget to balance itself, right? And said, forgive me if I don't think about monetary policy. This is what you get. You get a doubled national debt. Doubled. Our debt is more than $1.2 trillion. For the folks at home, that's 1,000 billion. If you started counting right now, it would take you 30,000 years to count to 1 trillion. The Ice Age was more recent than that. That's crazy. So that's where we are after this Trudeau government. Speaking of delusional, did we want to move on to the leader of the NDP, Jagmeet Singh? And I will give some credit to my old colleagues at the Parliamentary Press Gallery here, because you can hear them, William, getting exasperated, finally, with this NDP leader, because amid all of this stuff, finance minister quitting, having to rush down to governor general, begging, his old babysitter to become finance minister, all this stuff happening, Jagmeet Singh comes out and speaks to reporters and again says exactly nothing. William, what was your take on this? Can you break it down for us?
Yeah, Jagmeet Singh, that paragon of political strategy and effectiveness in the House of Commons, has just become such a laughing stock for all of us who follow Canadian politics. This is a guy who said he was ripping up the supply and confidence agreement, proceeded to continue to vote to keep Trudeau and the Trudeau government in power. Well, you would think out of any time that this would be the moment he would summon himself to finally say enough is enough. We're going to vote no confidence in this government. But of course, never one to miss an opportunity. Jagmeet Singh completely missed the opportunity, and instead, to a yes/no question, gave this incredible, well thought out and concise answer. Let's watch this amazing clip together.
Right now, Canadians are struggling with the cost of living. I hear it everywhere I go. People cannot find a home that they can afford. They can't buy their groceries. And on top of that, we have Trump threatening tariffs at 25%, which put hundreds and thousands of Canadian jobs at risk. And instead of focusing on these issues, Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are focused on themselves. They're fighting themselves instead of fighting for Canadians. And for that reason, today I'm calling on Justin Trudeau to resign. He has to go.
Will you declare no confidence in the Liberal government as soon as possible?
All tools, all options are on the table. People are hurting. People are struggling, and so all options are on the table. That means everything is possible. But what is clear, given what we have seen, Justin Trudeau and a Liberal government that are focused on themselves, they are infighting at a time when people cannot even do their groceries. They can't even find homes that are affordable. And we've got the threat of Donald Trump and 25% tariffs that mean hundreds of thousands of jobs are at risk. Because of that, I'm saying very clearly that Justin Trudeau has to resign. All options on the table. Thank you very much.
That's a nice touch, this part. Yeah, that's good.
The I feel equivocation in my soul touch. That's right.
It's good. Very, very,
just
very
from
negative
watching
here.
that,
Yeah.
just from watching that, you can just sense just all of the political cynicism just emanating from the front hole that he has on his face. It's really just annoying that he won't come out and just say what his true intentions are. He's keeping the Trudeau government in power because he sees that the NDP are down in the polls, and he doesn't want to go to an election where they're probably going to lose seats in an election where they should easily win seats as an opposition party when the government is extremely unpopular. That, and also because he wants to get his pension. Jagmeet, you have a lot of money already. We see the Prada bags and the Maseratis and the Rolexes and the $2,000 suits. Now he wants even more money on the back of taxpayers. He wants to go get his pension. He's a hustler, and I would be able to respect that if he was hustling to improve the lives of Canadians, but instead he's just hustling to, line his pockets and to, keep a very, very unpopular prime minister in power. If he decided to not, sign this confidence and supply and confidence agreement, then he would have been able to position his party as a true opposition party to a prime minister that is not good. And then he decided to, take the supply and confidence agreement and rip it up, and then he still is supplying them with confidence. It's actually really, really annoying as an observer of Canadian politics. And I think most Canadians are annoyed because polls show 50%, 58% of Canadians want to go to an election. And majority of NDP voters want to go to an election. 33% of Liberal voters want an election. So it's not as if he is, fighting against this demand from the Conservatives for an election that is going to be unpopular like the 2021 election. This is probably the election that Canadians have wanted the most in years, in decades even, and he won't give the people what they want.
William?
It is truly hilarious, and I apologize for not knowing if it was either Chris Sully or Matt Gurney. One of the two posted a great tweet, and it was about Justin Trudeau basically carrying a sword, slipping, falling on the sword, having to spill oil on himself, lighting himself on fire at the same time as stabbing himself with the sword. And he says, Jagmeet Singh looking on, eyes narrows, thinking closely, and saying, "Not yet." And that really is what it comes down to. And I mean, I think, there's been a lot of speculation. Why is Mr. Singh delaying this election? Why is he avoiding collapsing the government? And one of the theories that has been put forward is because if he waits just a little bit longer, another 2 months, he becomes eligible for his government taxpayer-funded index-linked MP pension. And New Democrats have been very quick and ardent in denying that this is the reason, except they have yet to provide a convincing alternative reason for why they're actually not voting to collapse the government now. And until they do, I think all of us are going to believe that this is really just a crass exercise on the part of Jagmeet Singh and the New Democrats in order to make Mr. Singh have a soft feather MP pension landing rather than the best interests of Canadians at heart.
Yeah, I don't care. I'll just say it. I think it is because of his pension. I think that most people who've been observers long enough figure that as well. And you know what? To your point exactly, William, the NDP is not doing itself any favors. I think it was Julian. I think it was Peter Julian that's like I'm paraphrasing, answering the question of, okay, well, when do you see this government falling? And he basically pulls out a calendar. He's like, late February, early March-ish. Yeah, you know what? That's after this big pension date, which I think is the 25th or 26th of February. So they're not doing themselves any favors. And for folks who are watching this, who are big supporters of the Dippers, and you're offended, okay, prove me wrong. Go ahead. I will gladly say, you know what, I was wrong. They brought them down as soon as they possibly could. And I wanted to point out something kind of procedural and nerdy for folks who are watching, who listened to Mr. Singh say that Trudeau should resign. Well, that kind of sounds serious, right? That sounds like, okay, that means the plug is pulled. No. He very specifically said Trudeau needs to resign. He didn't say, I'm withdrawing my confidence in this government at the earliest possible opportunity, because what that would do is the leader of the party that happens to be in power would no longer be leader. So then that party would muddle through and put in an interim leader in the middle of it. So anybody, frankly, would be interim leader, and they'd have to have a little, leadership race of some sort, okay? And that would muddle them through until at least, what would you say, William? March, April at the earliest?
You could definitely survive until the government was about to run out of money again.
That's
and
right.
needed Parliament to vote them more money.
That buys you many weeks by him saying that exact answer, which is why I think that was Marika Walsh from the Globe and Mail who was yelling at him, saying, is that really a credible answer? Channel that to all of the reporters on Parliament Hill who are part of the press gallery. You know how you're being fed that line? Deep down, you know that's true. So channel that anger and keep asking these folks hard questions of all political parties. Speaking of political parties, Noah, did you want to chat about, there was a switched win. It was in Cloverdale, Langley in BC, and it was a gain for the Conservatives?
Yep. So in British Columbia on Monday, to cap off the disastrous day that Trudeau had on Monday, there was a by-election in British Columbia, and this seat was held by the Liberals. The Liberals won the seat in 2021, and I believe also in 2019. And the Conservatives, they put up a candidate named Tamara Jensen. Now, the Conservatives, they've tried to move away from their stance on abortion issues, just try not to talk about it, and probably have said he's pro-choice. But this candidate was a pro-lifer, so you would think that this is an easy candidate for the Liberals to attack the Conservatives on. The Liberals, they love harping on the abortion issue, but instead, the Liberals, they got decimated in this by-election, and I mean decimated. Remember how I said the Liberals won the last election in Cloverdale Langley? Instead, the Conservatives won this by-election with 66.3% of the vote, with the Liberals at 16%. That is about over a 50-point swing. We never see this in politics over from one election to another. A 50 points, if you extrapolate a 50-point win nationally, that means that the Conservatives would win like 300 seats in the next election. Now, that's probably not going to happen, but a 50-point swing in British Columbia, province that the Liberals are supposed to be competitive in. This is not like in Alberta, where the Conservatives win 66.3% of the vote if they put a horse as the candidate. But instead, they lost a by-election that they were supposed to be competitive in. Now, going into the election day, we thought that the Conservatives would win, but this is an embarrassment for the Liberals. This probably had something to do with an announcement earlier in the day that Freeland was resigning. A lot of Liberal voters probably said, "Well, what's the point of even going to the polls? Our party sucks right now." But it looks as if the Liberals are digging themselves in a deeper and deeper hole. These by-elections are getting worse and worse for Trudeau and the Liberals, and it doesn't seem as if they're going to be able to save very much furniture in the next coming election. What do you guys think of this by-election result?
Go ahead, William.
Yeah, I always say don't ever read too much into any one by-election. There can be weird things happening in by-elections, lower turnout, and rarely does a future of a government hang on the outcome of a single by-election. All of that being said, I think you have to look at the series of by-elections that have happened over the past 8 or so months, past year, and the fact that the Liberals are now consistently losing what had been described as safe Liberal seats that to the Conservatives, and in one case to the Bloc, I think is painting a very worrying picture for what this means to the Liberal Party. Now, if you look at other advanced democracies, the Liberal Party is a bit of an anomaly. It's this quote-unquote centrist party. It's moved quite far to the left, I would say, under the leadership of Mr. Trudeau and his colleagues, roommates, who are in cabinet. And but still,
And his groomsmen. Come on, William. Be fair. It was his wedding party and college roommate.
You're right. Or who went to, or at his wedding party. You're right. But having this centrist party exist sort of between a left-wing opposition and a right-wing opposition is unusual. And in many places, centrist parties just have been unable to continue existing after electoral defeat. And that, you look at Ontario and the Kathleen Wynne Liberals. Well, the Liberal Party has disappeared virtually, or become, a very much less of a factor. Alberta, we don't have a Liberal Party anymore. I mean, maybe we do on paper, but it doesn't say or do anything. It's either the United Conservative Party or the New Democrats, and that's the case everywhere. So the real worry for the Liberal Party isn't just losing this upcoming election to Pierre Poilievre. It could be losing the Liberal Party as a political force, as a viable alternative in party politics. The only saving grace, I would say, for the Liberal Party is the fact that the New Democrats are being led by Jagmeet Singh, who is just so incompetent as a political party leader. If the New Democrats had a competent leader who was politically astute, who was good on policy, leading an energized, united caucus, I bet that the amount of space between popular support, they would just be crushing those Liberals in between them and the Conservative Party. And a bad showing for the Liberal Party now could send them into the wilderness, maybe for 5 years, maybe for a decade, maybe forever. we should only be so lucky, I should say. Maybe letting my partisan political feelings show just a little bit there.
Well,
Go ahead.
you bring up a great point because even in Canada, you see this consolidation of the political landscape. In British Columbia, you have the NDP, and there was a nominally center-right party, the BC Liberals. They renamed to the BC United, but they got outshined by the center-right party that is unafraid to say that they're conservatives, the BC Conservative. You see in Alberta, the Liberals get pushed out. In Ontario, it looks like the NDP and the Liberals, they're both suffering from weak leaders. So we'll see what party rises to the top once one of them becomes electorally viable. You see even in Manitoba, they have the PC NDP divide. It looks as if Canada is polarizing into falling into one or two distinct political identities. Either you're center right or center left, and that's about it. And it seems as if this consolidation would be happening on the federal level, if not for the NDP. If the NDP were, as William said, a lot stronger, you'd probably see the Liberals being pushed out and probably at 10%. And you have this problem where Justin Trudeau is staying on, and his brand is very toxic to the Canadian people. You go even in the streets of Toronto, and you just talk about Justin Trudeau to the average person, and they're not going to have great things to say about him. So Trudeau is hastening the decline of the Liberal brand in Canada. But as William says, Jagmeet Singh just cannot capitalize on this. The NDP have been going down in all their by-election results, as have the Liberals, and it's making it very easy for Pierre Poilievre to pick up all the people who are frustrated with the government as supporters and to get them to vote for the CPC in the next election.
To that point, mentioning center-left and Manitoba and by-elections, the NDP won a by-election recently in Manitoba. And I learned this week that NDP Premier Wab Kinew of Manitoba, did you know that he speaks French? And he
No,
also
je ne sais
Yeah.
pas.
He speaks English, obviously, Ojibwe, and French. And gotta say, dude's a very good communicator. So definitely somebody to watch there. Speaking of watching with a lot of popcorn, did we want to get to President-elect Trump and the imminent invasion? Who wants to lead that one off? These things are so good. Okay, so for folks, again, who haven't been following, U.S. President-elect and former President Donald Trump has been apparently following Canadian politics pretty closely. As we know, he is threatening very seriously a 25% tariff on stuff that we ship into the United States. Our relationship with the United States, as far as just trade goes, forget the fact that we're neighbors and relatives and, allies and all that stuff and good friends. Our trade relationship cannot be overstated. Like, it cannot. It is not duplicated anywhere else in the world. It is billions and billions and billions of dollars that cross that border. And he's apparently been watching a lot of this stuff going back and forth. And so much so that I actually had a relative text me earlier this week, like freaked right out, like about manifest destiny. And aren't you worried about this? So just off the top, I'll take my CTF hat off because tariffs are bad and we should take this thing really seriously. But as somebody who was raised in the 80s, I've read Donald Trump's main book, Art of the Deal. And I used to watch wrestling all the time. And I would occasionally tune into his old show, The Apprentice. This is how he talks. This is like somebody getting ready for an MMA fight and giving you shots beforehand. He is trash talking you before he pulls you into the octagon. So to me, I don't think that the U.S. Army is going to roll across the 49th parallel. Now, I could be wrong. William, are you gathering your acorns to use them in your slingshot, or what's happening in your house?
Yeah, I think it's funny to watch the reaction to Mr. Trump's comments because the hysteria we're seeing from some quarters is precisely what Mr. Trump wants to have happen. He's saying these things precisely to elicit a response. And the more the Canadian side flaps about the better it gives, the more strength it puts his position in for negotiating when the actual negotiation comes to pass. We're in the pre-negotiation phase right now, where he's laid out dire trade consequences for Canada unless progress is made on several issues. And now he is simply fanning the flames of sowing the seeds of discord or sanity on our side in order to simply be able to put himself in a position to extract more concessions for when the deal finally happens. The best thing any people could do would be to focus on the trade issue and the specific border issues that Mr. Trump has brought forward and ignore everything else. Because if he tweets something and doesn't get a response, he's going to move on to something else, right? He won't just keep saying something if there's no response to it. If we keep responding with increasingly insane responses, then he's going to be saying it for the next 8, 12, 18, however many years he manages to keep himself in the White House through whatever means he employs. So it is pretty funny to watch. And, should Canada, ever find itself on the receiving end, there's only a few things I can say, which is, first of all, good luck trying to afford a house up here right now for anybody who wants.
You don't want this, guys. No. Governor Trudeau not doing a good job.
And set up shop. And secondly, to Mr. Trump's and Republicans' own best interest, Canada would be a blue state, I think, if it ever became the 51st state. Do you really want to give more electoral votes to the Democrats in every presidential election? Strategically, not a great idea for President Trump and the Republicans. So just keep that in mind, Mr. President-elect, when you're making things.
Noah, I think Poilievre was right when he stated in his press conference something along the lines of Trump can spot weakness a mile away. This is how he negotiates. It's how he gets his art of a deal going. And freaking out about him teasing us, saying, oh, Governor Trudeau, 51st state, just screams weakness. So keep your powder dry. Noah, what was your take on this?
Well, my general take was this kind of reminds me of when like a little kid makes a joke that adults find funny and then they just keep repeating it and it just loses all the luster that it had originally. Like Trump, he's a bit childish in my opinion, and he thinks it's funny, prodding Canadians over this joke, and Canadians are a little insecure. We like to think of ourselves as better than Americans. Oh, we have a better healthcare system than you guys. We might not.
Yeah.
Definitely debatable. We like to say, oh, we're nicer, we're this, we're that, we have less crime, before in the 1800s, they used to say we're more religious than you guys. We don't say that anymore. But we always have had this insecurity since 1867 and even before. So the Trump exploiting this is kind of funny, as someone who doesn't take Trump very seriously when he says these types of things. But as William said, we do need to take serious the trade thing, and we need to make overtures to Trump and flatter him a little. That's how you sort of get on his good side. When Trump went to visit China, Xi Jinping flowered him with this pomp and ceremony, and probably fed him some good food, some McDonald's, and he's like, wow, this Xi guy, I really like this guy. The same thing when he visited North Korea, it's like, oh, Kim Jong-un, he's not Rocket Man anymore. But when he goes to visit like Germany or whatever, and Angela Merkel's giving him a scorn, like a sour face, that doesn't help American-German relations, and it doesn't help Canadian-American relations. So I think what Daniel Smith is doing is really smart, going on Fox News, talking to American conservatives, putting forward the Canadian conservative position that a lot of Americans would resonate with. I think she has been a great leader when it comes to trying to deal with the threat of tariffs. And Trudeau is absolutely the opposite. He goes to a conference and makes a speech about how the Americans should have voted in Kamala Harris, and the Americans are sexist because of it. It's not smart when you're trying to flatter. You're supposed to be trying to flatter Trump to get him to remove these tariffs, but Trudeau is stuck in this, like, now that he realizes that he's done with his time in office, pretty much, he's going to just, become a bit more ideological, a bit more stringent. He's going to try and keep Pierre Poilievre out of office as long as possible because he views him as a mortal enemy. And he's going to, prod and poke Donald Trump because he views Donald Trump as a mortal enemy too. Damned, the terrorists, damned what that's going to do to the Canadian economy. We got to, tell Trump that he's a sexist. So you know uh, but just in general, I think the joke should not be taken seriously. We're not going to become the 51st state, guys. Don't worry. And if they invade, we got army of moose. I think we ride them like horse, just instead of horse, we got the antlers to ram into the tanks. Hopefully that'll work.
So a nice way of putting it is that when you're trying to imagine like you're getting married, okay? And you're melding two families together. Maybe the families have their differences. The best thing to do is to meet people where they are, find commonality, and ingratiate yourselves to them based on those common interests. So to your point, Noah, on Premier Danielle Smith, she's doing the smart thing. She's climbing into Trump's living room by going on Fox News and going on Fox
Exactly.
Business and actually talking not about her feelings. Who cares? She's talking about facts and laying out what she's going to do to uphold her end of the bargain. That is how you make deals with adults, is showing how you're going to uphold your end of the bargain. And so it is very good that we have some premiers in Canada who can be the adults in the room. So Premier Ford out in Ontario is getting a lot of play this way. I would say that's largely because it's an Ontario-dominated mainstream media still. I am a little biased because I'm a Western Canadian gal. I think Premier Smith is doing a great job of kind of doing the Captain Canada thing here right now because she's talking about facts and dates. Ford is doing some as well. And this is all leading back to the initial reason why apparently Trump said all this. He wants us to toughen up our border. Like, that generally will just benefit Canadians. At the Taxpayers Federation, we've been railing against the gun grab, for example, here, where the Trudeau government is trying to penalize law-abiding, licensed firearms owners and steal our property from us, even though he is letting tons of illegal weapons and firearms and guns rush across our border back and forth all the time. So sure, he needs to be taken seriously because, of course, a tariff like that is going to damage economies, frankly, on both sides of the border. Because if you want to get back to Premier Ford, the auto pact, the auto industry, they're the same industry. They just happen to straddle the border. So I don't think he wants to do this either. We just need to actually make a good deal and stop taking so much of this personally. Folks, thank you so much for watching. William and Noah, thank you so much for joining us. Please leave your comments under the channel here on the YouTube channel. You can always go to the True North website and send us a message there. Let us know what you think of the show. But until then, remember, everything we've said is off the record. Off the record, they'll be posted on the internet.
I mean, I think
There
Danielle
we
Smith
go.
makes a good point too, where she's trying to debunk that 100 billion number a
Yeah.
bit, and I think that's useful. Saying a lot of it's raw imports into the United States, oil and gas and lumber and other things, which big American companies, turn into really great products that they sell for trillions of dollars on the global market. So, why don't we look at it as we're investing in each other, we're being part of a team that together we're both going to be successful. So I really hope that message starts to get out there a bit.
I think it will, because he knows that. He totally knows that.
Yeah.
And he'll be so impressed that smart Danielle Smith is saying this back to him. I'm very optimistic when it comes to this stuff. I think he'll be impressed by that knowledge, and I think we will get a deal. This is so much bluster. Like, so much bluster. And
Yeah.
everybody's taking the bait. Quit taking the bait.
And I mean, you're elected on a mandate of improving things. Is oh, immediately our prices are up 20% because the tariff on Canada. That won't really play well in America.